Life Reflection, Chapter 20, A Friendship Breakup. So, this is a story that's kind of close to my heart. It's a story where I'm going to do my best not to reveal much details at all in terms of like who people might be, I guess. And the point of it is not to expose anyone or hurt anyone. The point of it is just simply to express what's in my heart and what I feel. So after COVID, as we mentioned in the last episode, there was like this period of time where everyone was like, hey, we're finally free again. The restrictions have like lifted and we can just like hang out and do stuff together. So it was a flurry of just like going out all the time. I think this was around the time my average of like going out and seeing people was like 4, sometimes like 5 a week. And it was crazy. It was fun, but definitely very consuming for sure. Like my life was consumed by just continuous hangouts and seeing people and doing things. And I feel like I didn't quite get the focus on my projects, the things that I wanted to, like the things I had envisioned, but that's okay. Like it's in the past and I really, really treasure my time with my friends and family. So around this time, I met a friend that was in a relationship with another friend that I met. So I was friends with this couple basically. And through certain circumstances, I ended up talking with the girlfriend quite a bit. It was primarily because we were both involved in an activity, like a sort of like online activity together. And based on that, like we just started talking more and more. And for me, I always thought of all of us as friends, just friends. I never had any ill intentions. I feel like anyone listening to this can eventually guess at what eventually happened. But just to tell the story clearly, so after those online activities were done, we still kept in contact and we would talk with each other, just like tell each other like what we did during the day or how was the day. And we would just plan hangouts with all of us, like groups, and just a lot of group activities and group hangouts. Like I basically never hung out with her one-on-one. Like it wasn't, there's nothing suspicious going on in my head. And whenever we all hung out, I would do my best to like talk with everyone as much as possible. But to me, this was like a really new friend who was sort of giving me that continuous conversation that I used to enjoy. Like ever since like my friend where we talked to each other a good amount, ever since she stopped and sort of ghosted me and ignored me and then eventually apologized for it. Like we were friends again, but we didn't quite talk like that. After that, I never had anyone who I really talked to on a consistent basis. It was sort of just like I talked to people once in a while and I talked to people mostly in person. And that was not infrequent. It was kind of like maybe like I said, I would average seeing people like 2 to 3 times a week, even before COVID. And even during COVID, like I would talk with people online all the time because we had activities together. But there's something quite nice about just like consistently talking with one person where, they know what you did or have been up to, and they sort of have like a updated version of how you've been. So you don't have to like do that whole catch up thing. And you sort of just can talk about more and more. And it's a bit more layered and deep that way if you want to actually have good conversation. Otherwise, you talk about the updates all the time. It's like, it's just the updates. Like, what about like the deep details, right? The stuff that's on your mind, that's very, very recent. You don't really get into that if you see someone infrequently or talk to someone infrequently. So we had some good conversations basically. And yeah, I know for most people, like they consider those types of conversations to be like, I guess they can catch feelings when they have those types of conversations with people. But for me, I've had that type of conversation with a lot of people. Like usually for certain friends, when we get close, there's this period of time where like we get closer and closer, where we talk more and more frequently than usual. And then eventually it dies down. And during that time of like us talking quite frequently, we do get close. And for me personally, because I had no interest, I already did the dating episode. Like I generally just had no interest in like dating or relationships in general. Like I never really considered that to be anything. I never considered it to be like, oh, do I have interest in this person now that I like got to know them more and all that stuff? I don't really confuse that or conflate that with like, oh, I have feelings for them. It's more like, wow, I really feel connected with this person. I feel like this person's a really good friend. Like I know them more and all that stuff. I think that's like sort of the more mature way of viewing connections. It's not like just because you know someone really well and you feel connected with them and you have similarities and all that stuff, it doesn't mean like you have feelings for them. It just means that you feel connected with them. That's it. So that's sort of where I was at. And I'm talking about this and clarifying because I want people to understand like my mindset versus the conventional mindset, because I do feel like the conventional one is quite, I don't know, I just have issues with it. Like I've never considered myself to have like fallen into those conventions very often. Like oftentimes people are like, oh, can you be friends with like the opposite gender, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Like what's the issue with that? Like there's like zero problems. People are just people, right? But I guess some people just view it as like a guy and a girl will always, or, there's always that thing between people, I suppose. Like romance can always be a potential and all that stuff. But yeah, I personally don't believe that. I think that at least for me in my life, the way I see things, it's like a person is just a person. But I will say that I do have a tendency to prefer talking to females, to people. I think it's primarily because of my upbringing as well as like emotional availability. Like my upbringing was basically my dad leaving me and my dad being cold all the time and not ever really talking or communicating feelings. And then like over time when I grew up, like most of my friendships with girls would be like them talking about their feelings, me being able to talk about my feelings with them, and just like noticing that it's so much easier to talk with them regarding emotions, regarding feelings and all that stuff. And whenever I talk with guys, sometimes they're always like, they don't really open up. Some of them are like, it's whatever. It's like, I don't care. Or like they act macho. They act like too strong for feelings, like, oh, guys don't cry, That's cool, but that's not me, So for me, I've always leaned towards having more fulfilling conversations with girls just because they're able to do that better, I guess. I know it's not the same across the board and I don't want to generalize, but that just seems like to be what usually happens. Anyways, I feel like I've given enough context to just keep moving forward with the story. So eventually we talked more often, like what I described earlier with like certain friends, where we had this period of time where we just like grew closer because we had more frequency and talking and seeing each other and all that stuff, and we became good friends after that. I feel like for me and this new friend, it kind of like stayed super consistent. Like it didn't have a drop off. And I think maybe that was the primary concern of the boyfriend. He basically felt like a boundary was crossed at a certain point. And to me, that's totally fine. Like I have nothing against that. I think that's totally fair. And the issue was that at a certain point, I noticed that there was like a big, like after about a year or so, like beyond a year, there was like a really, really big like drop off, like where my new close friend no longer communicated the same way. It was like a completely different person, basically. There was no effort at all. And for me, I was like kind of sad because I was like, what's going on? Like there's no explanation. There's no like maybe the person's busy. So, just like try not to mind it. But like it just kept going on that way for a good few months. And it just felt like having a really new, good best friend that you could talk to and share your thoughts with. And all of a sudden, like they just disappear. This definitely is part of my abandonment journey for sure. And for me, like I was dealing with it, I wasn't like dependent on it. I was more so just like sad because of it. The way I described the whole abandonment feeling, right? It's like, it's nice and warm when you have someone that you care about that is there and giving you some attention and giving you some like care as well. And all of a sudden, like they just vanish and disappear and it gets cold. Like it's just a feeling of coldness. But there were some plans that were made like a while back when things were still somewhat normal. And eventually we got to those plans. And in those plans, there was a situation where I had an opportunity to talk with her and just like ask her what was going on. Like just ask her, why the sudden distance and change in tone and everything like that. And she mentioned how her boyfriend just wasn't comfortable with certain things, and there were some issues regarding like me, and I was definitely like there to listen and just like try my best to be understanding fully. But I guess there was something lost in translation. So I ended up apologizing to him because I do want other people to understand that like I understand their feelings and everything like that. So that's what happened. And then we ended up having a small dispute. And what happened was they listed out certain grievances. A lot of the grievances that my friend listed out, my good friend listed out, we already talked about at a certain point and resolved. So it was kind of confusing for me to ask why like they were being listed out again. But a lot of it was pretty unfair, but I did my best to just like take it and try to apologize and try to just take it, like be the one to let peace ensue and like give in and not try to fight it, and like show that I had no bad intentions whatsoever and that I didn't want to be defensive and all that stuff. But I think the issue was because I thought that way and because I opened myself up to so much like unfairness and so much like of their feelings, I ended up feeling terrible, like probably one of the most terrible times in my life. Just hearing so much stuff against me that felt so wrong. Like for the things that I did do incorrectly, of course, I'm like very apologetic. Of course, I understand. But for the things that were just like completely unfair, me trying my best to accept it and trying to apologize for it and trying to basically not fight back and not be defensive, it was a huge mistake because doing that opens you up to a lot of pain. It's hard to describe. I mean, like just as an analogy, or not even an analogy, like when you're holding your arms like wide open and your heart is exposed and they're like shooting arrows at you and you have no shield and you're not trying to like shield against it, you're gonna get some damage. So that's exactly what happened. And like thinking about it in the past, about like when I had arguments with certain friends, it's very rare that I have arguments with friends, but there were certainly at least one or two arguments with friends where I sort of dished out a little bit of criticism about certain things they did that I thought was like wrong. And they would react very defensively, like overly defensively. And I think that it's just like a normal reaction. It's just a normal defense mechanism for your heart, for your feelings, so that you don't get overwhelmed, so that you just have that guard up so that your feelings and so that your emotions don't get too damaged, so your psyche doesn't get too damaged. It's very, very hard to describe how I felt, but I'm doing my best, and it basically just felt like really, really bad. Like my whole system and body felt really, really bad. And there was this point where I felt like I was having like, I guess it was an anxiety attack. I've never really had a legit one before. Maybe that was the first one, but basically it was very, very hard to breathe. It was hard to see. It's hard to think of anything for a while. And I just felt terrible inside, like just so much negative, bad emotion inside of me. Like it really, really messed me up for sure for a good week or two, maybe 3. For me, I suppose what I really, really had wished for is that a lot of the things were mentioned as they came up, or at least like soon after, because it was just like 30 minutes of me staying silent and both of them just listing out everything they had against me. And I think that was legit one of the worst experiences in my life. And I was just sitting there letting it happen because I thought it was like the right thing to do. And I'm sure for them, they thought it was better that way. and that it's like what they did is what like they at the time they thought it was right that they do it that way, just uninterrupted, all that stuff. But yeah, a lot of it, I was very okay with a lot of what my friend had to say. But for the boyfriend, the way he talked to me and stuff like that, it just felt so bad. The tone, like for me, I just, it's very hard for me to deal with aggression, like or when people are aggressive in general. And had he just like talked to me about certain things, like as they came up, like I said back then, like soon after, like we could have had everything figured out, but it was just everything at once, everything. And some of it seems kind of twisted to me. So what ended up happening was I just wrote, because that's what I do. I journal. Like when I have terrible moments in my life, I journal a lot. I write a lot. I didn't actually used to audio journal whatsoever. It was all just typing, just so much typing and typing and typing and just letting it out. And my final mistake was letting them see what I typed out. And actually, they didn't see what I typed out. They saw like a summarized version of what I typed out. I don't know, maybe the actual full version would have been better. But basically, I wrote out like what I thought about every point that they mentioned, how certain ones were already resolved, wondering why they were brought up again, like mentioning the unfairness of certain ones, as well as just like certain ones being flat out wrong, like showing proof and all that stuff. It was a mess. That time period for me was definitely a mess. And yeah, all I know from my side is that I never intended anything like bad, poor, and I always tried my best to respect people's boundaries. My assumption was that it was fine because, both sides were engaging in conversation, and that's all it was just conversation. It was just texting, and it wasn't like anything weird. So to me, it was just, I don't know, it was just handled so poorly on my side as well. Like, I know that I could have tried to ask more clarifying questions, like tried to have been a better friend to the boyfriend. I mean, honestly, I did try. Like, there were a lot of moments where I certainly tried, but I don't know why things ended up the way they did. I was more than happy to try to work things out, Like, I still am, honestly. I still would welcome them back as friends with open arms. I mean, that's the last thing I said to them is like, this dispute is I just wanted you guys to know my feelings on the matter, like openly, right? And I wanted them to understand like what happened felt so wrong to me, like, and I wanted to just be honest. And I guess the reaction was just very, very bad. And the way I put things, I guess, was too blunt, too strong. But like I said, the last thing I said was that if they ever want to be friends again or talk, then I'm there. And part of me, can feel the unfairness still, but a part of me remembers the good times we had, like all of us. Like, there were a lot of fun memories. And to me, the disputes, the tiny arguments, the things that were brought up, like all of it is very solvable. But at the end of the day, people will do whatever is most comfortable for them, usually. The lesson I learned is that, it's totally fine to be defensive. It's totally fine to put up defenses when you need it to protect yourself. But at the same time, after you protect yourself, after you make sure that it's fair for you, for your perspective, that you mention everything you need to feel right, that there is a real conversation, That's another thing. I feel like we should have done it in person, like actually talked it out versus a call and like them reading my journal or summary. There were a lot of mistakes made, and I feel like I learned a lot from it. For sure, like I said, a lot of good memories. I will never ever like let the end of that friendship like taint the memories, because for me, I still really enjoy those memories, and I will always consider them to have been good friends. And like I said, if they ever want to try again, I'm super open to it. But if not, that's fine too. I just hope that they're doing well. I hope that both of them are healthy, living a good life, and just doing well. Yeah. I know I'm repeating myself a lot this episode. This is the issue with sometimes just relaying my thoughts candidly like this and not writing them down into a script or something. I have a tendency of just repeating. But yeah, again, I did my best to leave out as much as possible just for the protection of my friends, even if, they don't consider me a friend anymore. It's fine. But I just I don't want to reveal any information that could possibly, expose or hurt anyone. Yeah, but honestly, thinking about it now, from this point in time, there's so many friends that I've met and no longer really see that much. Like so many people that I consider really, really good friends as well. Just, we see each other once in a while, like the one who I had a dispute with us at a certain point. We see each other like once every few months, I'd say. It really depends on the year. You ask about which year, and it's like, oh, there was a year we saw each other like not year, but like a month a month or two where we saw each other every week. And then for another good friend, actually, I saw her like almost like every single week for a good year. It's kind of crazy, but it's really, really good time. And she's one of my closest friends, I'd say. Very, very motivating friend, like one of the smartest friends I know. And she truly inspires me and truly makes me want to be like, I don't know, she gives me hope, I guess, because she's such a cool person, and she's just, I don't know, really, really weird person. But that time period where we saw each other like weekly, that was so fun. Like I really, really enjoyed it. Like all the walks we had, the dinners, the conversations, the banter, yeah, all of it was super enjoyable. And nowadays we see each other like once every 2 months. So it's fine. Like I still really love seeing her and talking with her, and we're still basically best friends. Whenever we meet up, it's just like back at it. Give the updates, show some photos, walk around, talk, and that's it. Like we've never had any issues with like anything. Like to me, that's like the ideal friendship right there. But yeah, I've had plenty of other friends where I've done something similar, and like I see a really close friend of mine maybe once, or we used to see each other all the time. Actually, we used to see each other like almost weekly. Again, depends on the year or month, but nowadays we just see each other maybe once every month or two, and probably once every month. And sometimes we hang out one-on-one, and she also has a boyfriend, and like he has no issues with us hanging out one-on-one. I know to some people that's like crazy, but like, we've been friends for a long time, and I know him as a person as well. He's also a friend of mine, and not from before, like I met him afterwards, but he trusts me because he knows what kind of person I am. He trusts her as well. And in my head, she's like a sister. I know again, to some people, this is like crazy. Like, I don't know, but the way I am, the way I grew up, the way I see things, it's like crystal clear to me that this person is just a really close, good friend. Yeah. I wish people could like easily see that, could like be able to feel what I feel. And I think they would like not worry about it, because I just feel like it's such a contentious topic, and such a like unnecessarily contentious topic. I just don't think it's a big deal at all, but people make it out to be a big deal. And I don't know, I guess I find it frustrating. I'm kind of surprised at how frustrating it seems, actually. But yeah, I guess for me, I'm trying to like figure out the source, right? I think the source is like, I have friends that are female, that are girls, that I'm really close to, that are really close friends, but I have zero like romantic feelings for them. But the issue lies in the fact that because of this widespread belief that a girl and a guy can't be close friends and just be purely platonic, there will always be like uncomfortable feelings, the way people look at us. They question like the morality of what we're doing. Just a lot of like criticism, judgment, and discomfort, that's causing, I guess, it doesn't really cause me discomfort, to be honest, but maybe back then it might have. But now I just know who I am, and I know what I'm about. And it's like, I don't care what other people say, but it can also possibly matter to the other person. And like, say, for instance, this has happened, like one of my friends, where they get a boyfriend and a new boyfriend, and the new boyfriend's like, oh yeah, no, you can't hang out with guys one-on-one. You just can't. Like, there goes our like one-on-one sessions whenever we just like play a game or something, or just hang out to catch up, like one-on-ones are really nice. They're really fun. They're like, you really, really get an experience with a friend that you don't usually get. Because in groups, it's harder to talk about like very, very serious, deep things and be completely open and honest about everything. And you want to reveal yourself. You want to like be open and honest completely with people you feel comfortable with. And sometimes there's just like one person in the group or something like that where you just don't know them. You don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what they're going to say. You don't know like what's going to happen if you do reveal yourself. Normally nothing's going to happen, but in fact, they'll probably be more open and honest themselves, but it's still a feeling. It's still a feeling of like not knowing this person and being uncomfortable with it. Or on the flip side, like you know a person and you know that they're just not the type of person that usually talks about those things or like likes it, or like they're that macho type or whatever. So it's definitely something for me that's a important topic. And I guess I didn't realize how important until I just started talking about it. But just to clarify, these feelings I have and the topic that I'm talking about, it has nothing to do with the dispute with my friends. It was unrelated. Like that was not the main issue whatsoever. But I'm just bringing it up because I feel like I've always had this in me where I want to express this idea and feeling that I have that goes against the conventional perspective, the conventional way of seeing things, and basically just to express how I don't like the conventional way of seeing things. So that's like two parts, I suppose, and they just so happen to be tangentially related. But yeah, friendships, dang, could be and still be a topic on its own, honestly, but this was just a friendship breakup, I suppose, episode. Just in case I don't have a friendship episode, I will say this. For the people that I have always, or for the people that I have created a bond with, shared memories with, and done things together with, and just like overall, like I care about them, love them, call them my friend, like a genuine friend. Like for everyone that I've ever called a friend, I will always remember, they're a part of what made me who I am. My interactions with them, my experiences with them, our shared thoughts. And I will always be grateful for them. No matter like how long we haven't talked, no matter the fights we have, no matter the distance, like everyone I met in Japan as well, and me going back to Japan to visit soon as well, and just like hitting up some friends, and they're like, yeah, let's hang out. It's like, it's a good feeling because it's like, yeah, we shared so many cool memories together. Like, let's reconnect and it'll be fun. It's just, yeah, that's the way I'd like to view friendship. That's the way I prefer to view like connections, how people are connected. It's just care and love and just connection. But yeah, that's it for this one. I definitely feel like it's quite a passionate topic for me. I should consider talking about it a bit more, getting more layered and nuanced.